Shabbat shalom, my Hebrews and Shebrews. How about we hang with the prophets this morning? Um, Doing videos and reading schedules got all out of whack this last week, so we're going to try to get back on track here. We are going to be reading the book of Micah this morning, this Shabbat morning, beautiful morning here. And so if y'all will get your Bibles out, let's turn to Micah, and we will read the entirety of the book, which is 7 chapters, I believe, 7 or 8.
Yeah, 7.
7 chapters. And got Mama Bear here. She's going to read along with us. Let's turn the camera around. And let's see what Micah has to say this morning. This is Hanging with the Prophets on Shabbat morning. Micah verse 1, chapter 1, verse 1. The word of Yahweh came to Micah, a Moresheth, in the days of Jotham, Ahaz, Hezekiah, kings of Yehudah, which he saw concerning Shomeron and Jerusalem, that's Samaria and Jerusalem. Hear, all ye peoples, listen, O earth, and all who are in it, and let the Master Yahweh be a witness against you. Yahweh, from his set-apart temple. For look, Yahweh is coming out of his place, and he shall come down and shall tread on the high places of the earth. And the mountains shall melt under him, and the valleys be cleft as wax before the fire, as waters poured down a steep place. All this is for the transgression of Jacob, and for the sins of the house of Israel. What is the transgression of Jacob? Is it not Shomeron? And what are the high places of Yehudah? Are they not Jerusalem? And I shall make Shomeron a heap in a field, places for planting a vineyard, and I shall pour down her stones into the valley and uncover her foundations. And all her carved images shall be beaten in pieces, and all her harlot fees be burned with fire. And all her idols I shall lay waste, for she gathered it from the harlot fee of a whore, and they shall return to the harlot fee of a whore. Because of this I lament and howl. I go stripped and naked. I make a lamentation. I make a lamentation like jackals, and a mourning like ostriches. For her wounds are incurable. For it has come to Yehudah. It has come to the gate of my people, to Jerusalem. Do not declare it in Gath. Weep not at all in Beth Aphrah. Roll yourself in the dust. Pass by in nakedness and shame, you inhabitant of Shapher. The inhabitant of Seanan has not gone out. The lamentation of Beth Etzel takes from you its standing place. Though the inhabitants of Maroth waited for good, yet evil come down from Yahweh to the gate of Jerusalem. O inhabitant of Lachish, harness the chariot to the horse. She was the beginning of sin to the daughter of Zion, for the transgressions of Israel were found in you. Therefore you shall give parting gifts to Moresheth Gath, the houses of Akzib, becoming a deception to the kings of Israel. Again I shall bring a dispossessor to you, O inhabitant of Marashah. The esteem of Israel shall come to Adullam. Make yourself bald and cut off your hair for the children of your delight. Enlarge your baldness like an eagle, for they shall be exiled from you. Chapter 2. Woe to those plotting wickedness and working out evil upon their beds. In the light of the morning they practice it, because it is in the might of their hand. And they coveted fields and seized them, also houses, and took them away. And they oppressed a man in his house, a man in his inheritance. Therefore thus saith Yahweh, see, against this clan I am planning evil, from which you do not remove your necks, nor walk proudly, for this is the time of evil. And that day one shall lift up a proverb against you, and you shall lament with a bitter lamentation, and shall say, we have been utterly ravaged. He changes the inheritance of my people. How he removes it from me. He apportions our fields to the backslider. Therefore you shall have no one in the assembly of Yahweh to divide the land by lot. You do not preach, they preach. They do not preach to these. Reproaches are not turned back. Are you called house of Jacob? Has the spirit of Yahweh been limited? Are these his doings? Do not my words do good to the one walking uprightly? And lately my people have risen up as an enemy. You strip off the robe with the garment, and with those who trust you as they pass by, those returning from battle. You have driven the women of my people from their pleasant houses. You have taken away my splendor from their children forever. Arise and go, for this is not your rest, because uncleanliness destroys, and the destruction is grievous. If a man walking after wind and falsehood has lied, I preach to you of wine and of strong drink. He shall be the preacher of this people. I shall certainly gather all of you, O Jacob. I shall bring together the remnant of Israel. Put them together like sheep of the fold, like a flock in the midst of their pasture, they being noisy because of men. The breach makers shall go up before them, and they shall break. They shall break out and pass through the gate, and go out by it, and their sovereign pass before them, with Yahweh at their head. Then I said, Hear now, O heads of Jacob, and rulers of the house of Israel, should you know right ruling? You who are hating good and loving evil, tearing away the skin from my people and the flesh from their bones, and who have eaten the flesh of my people and stripped off their skin, and have broken their bones and have cut it up as into a pot, like flesh in the cooking pot. Therefore, when they cry to Yahweh, he does not answer them and hides his face from them at that time, as they have made their deeds evil. Thus saith Yahweh concerning the prophets, who lead my people astray, who are biting with their teeth, and who have called out, Peace! They even set apart a battle against him who does not give for their mouths. Therefore it shall be night to you without vision, and darkness to you without divination. The sun shall go down on the prophets, and the day shall be dark for them. The seers shall be ashamed, and the diviners embarrassed, and they shall all cover their lips. For there is no answer, O Elohim. But truly I am filled with power, with the Spirit of Yahweh, and with right ruling, and with might, to declare to Jacob his transgression, and to Israel his sin. Hear this, please, you heads of the house of Jacob, and rulers of the house of Israel, who despise right ruling, and distort all that is straight. Those building up Zion with bloodshed, and Jerusalem with unrighteousness. Her heads judge for a bribe, her priests teach for pay, and her prophets divine for a price. Yet they lean on Yahweh and say, Is not Yahweh in our midst? Evil does not come upon us. Therefore, because of you, Zion is plowed like a field, and Jerusalem becomes heaps, and the mountain of the house like a wooded height. That sounds similar and familiar to today with the TBN, wicked, deceiving TBN pastors.
Even in our own local towns, you'll find it in our churches all over the place.
Verse 4, chapter 4. And in the latter days it shall be that the mountain of the house of Yahweh is established on the top of the mountains, and he shall be exalted above the hills, and people shall flow to it. Remember, mountains in prophecy describe churches, um, whether it be a false church or the true church. Um, houses of worship are the hills. Uh, keep that in mind when you read prophecy. And many nations shall come and say, Come and let us go up to the mountain of Yahweh, to the house of the Elohim of Jacob, and let him teach us his ways, and let us walk in his paths. For out of Zion comes forth the Torah and the word of Yahweh from Jerusalem. And he shall judge among many peoples, and reprove strong nations afar off. They shall beat their swords to plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither teach battle any more. But each one shall sit under his vine, under his fig tree, with no one to make them afraid. For the mouth of Yahweh of hosts has spoken. For all the peoples walk, each one in the name of his mighty one. But we walk in the name of Yahweh, our Elohim, forever and ever.
When it says under his vine, does that go back to his vine?
I am the vine, ye are the branches.
Okay.
Now, this has to be describing after the great and terrible day of the Lord, because when the nations teach of battle no more, we have never seen that in all history of mankind. So this has to be dealing with after the great and terrible day of the Lord, the new heaven, the new earth. Verse 6, in that day declares Yahweh, I gather the lame, and I bring together the outcast, and those whom I have afflicted. And I shall make the lame a remnant, and the outcast a strong nation. And Yahweh shall reign over them in Mount Zion from now on and forever. And you, O tower of the flock, stronghold of the daughter of Zion, it shall come to you. The former rule shall come, the reign of the daughter of Jerusalem. And why do you cry aloud? Is there no king in you? Has your counselor perished? For pain has gripped you like a woman in labor. Be in pain and deliver, O daughter of Zion, like a woman in labor. For now you are to leave the city, and you shall dwell in the field, and you shall go to Babel. There you shall be delivered. There Yahweh shall redeem you from the hand of your enemies. Could this be talking of the second Exodus? Now, we have no proof that there's a second Exodus unlike the first Exodus. But there's many things that point to the possibility um, that there shall be a second Exodus. Verse 11, and now many nations shall be gathered against you, who are saying, let her be defiled, and let our eyes look upon Zion. Who's her? Her is the true church. And now many nations shall be gathered against you, who are saying, let her be defiled, and let her eyes look upon Zion. But they do not know the thoughts of Yahweh, nor do they understand his counsel. For he has gathered them like sheaves to the threshing floor. Arise and thresh, O daughter of Zion, for I make your horn iron, and your hooves bronze. That's power and might. And you shall beat many people into pieces, and I shall seclude their gain to Yahweh, and their wealth to the master of all the earth. Now you are raided, chapter 5. Now you are raided, O daughter of raiders. A siege has been laid against us. They strike the judge of Israel with a rod on the cheek. Well, you, Bethlehem, Ephrathah, Ephratah, Ephrathah?
Yeah.
We're going to go with Ephrathah. You who are little among the clans of Yehudah, out of you shall come forth to me the one to become ruler in Israel. And his comings forth are of old, from everlasting. There's Yeshua. Therefore he shall give them up until the time that she who is in labor has given birth, and the remnant of his brothers return to the children of Israel. And he shall stand and shepherd in the strength of Yahweh, in the excellency of the name of Yahweh, his Elohim. And they shall dwell, for at that time he shall be great to the ends of the earth. And this shall be peace, when Asher comes into our land, and when he treads into our palaces. We shall raise against him 7 shepherds and 8 leaders of men. I'm having a hard time seeing the words this morning. And they shall shepherd the land of Asher with the sword, and the land of Nimrod at its entrances. And he shall deliver us from Asher, when he comes into our land, and when he treads within our borders. And the remnant of Jacob shall be in the midst of many peoples, as dew from Yahweh, as showers from the grass, which do not wait for man, nor delay for the sons of men. And the remnant of Jacob shall be among the nations, in the midst of many peoples, like a lion among the beasts of the forest, like a young lion among flocks of sheep, who, if he passes through, shall both tread down and shall tear, and there is no one to deliver. Let your hand be lifted up against your adversaries, and all your enemies be cut off. It shall be in that day, declares Yahweh, that I shall cut off your horses out of your midst, and I shall destroy your chariots. And I shall cut off the cities of your land, and I shall put down all your strongholds. I shall cut off witchcrafts out of your hand, and let you have no magicians. I shall cut off your carved images and your pillars from your midst, so that you no longer bow down to the work of your hands. I shall pluck your Asherim out of your midst, and I shall destroy your cities, and I shall take vengeance and wrath and rage on the nations who do not obey. Chapter 6. I believe chapter 5 is dealing a lot with judgment. Not just judgment, but the judgment. Hear now what Yahweh says. Arise and strive with the mountains, and let the hills hear your voice. Right? We strive with, that's what we're doing today. We're striving with these false entities calling themselves church, um, false houses of worship. Hear, O ye mountains, the controversy of Yahweh, and you everlasting foundations of the earth. For Yahweh has a controversy with his people, and he shall reprove Israel. My people, what have I done to you? And how have I wearied you? Answer me. For I brought you up from the land of Mitzrayim, and I ransomed you from the house of bondage. I sent Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam before you. My people, remember. My people, remember, please, what Balak, sovereign of Moab, counseled, and what Balaam, son of Beor, answered him, from Shittim to Gilgal, in order to know the righteousness of Yahweh. With what shall I come before Yahweh? Bow myself before the high Elohim? Shall I come before him with ascending offerings, with calves a year old? Is Yahweh pleased with thousands of rams, or 10,000 rivers of oil? Shall I give my firstborn for my transgression, the fruit of my body for the sin of my being? He has declared to you, O man, what is good, and what does Yahweh require of you, but to do right, and to love, loving commitment, and to walk humbly with your Elohim. Obedience over sacrifice. The voice of Yahweh cries to the city, and let sound wisdom see your name. Hear the rod, and him who appointed it. That is Yeshua as well. Are there still treasures of wrongness in the house of the wrong, and the short measure, that is an abomination? Are there still treasures of wrongness in the house of the wrong, and the short measure, that is an abomination? Would I be innocent with wrong scales, and with a bag of false weights? For her rich men are filled with cruel unrighteousness, and her inhabitants have spoken falsehood. Their tongue is the deceit in their mouth. So I shall strike you with a grievous wound, to lay you waste because of your sin. You shall eat, but not be satisfied, and your inside be empty. And you shall store up, but not save. And what you save I shall give to the sword. You shall sow, but not reap. You shall tread the olives, but not anoint yourselves with oil, and make sweet wine, but not drink wine. For the laws of Omri are strictly observed, and all the works of the house of Ahab, and you walk in their counsels. Therefore I give for you a ruin, and your inhabitants for a hissing, and let you bear the reproach of my people. Woe to me, for I was as gatherings of summer fruit, as gleanings of the grape harvest. There is no cluster to eat. My being has desired the first ripe fruit. The loving committed one has perished from the earth. And there is no one straight among men. All of them lie in wait for blood. Everyone hunts his brother with a net. Both hands are on the evil, to do it well. The prince asks for gifts, the judge seeks a bribe, and the great man speaks the desire of his being. And they weave it together. The best of them is like a prickly plant. The most straight is sharper than a horn hedge. And the day of your watchman and your punishment has come. Now is their confusion. Trust no friend, Rely on no companion. Guard the doors of your mouth from her who lies in your bosom. For the son is despising father, daughter rises against her mother, daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. Enemies of man are the men of his own home. As for me, I look to Yahweh. I wait for the Elohim of my deliverance. My Elohim does hear me. Do not rejoice over me, O my enemy. When I have fallen, I have risen. When I sit in darkness, Yahweh is light to me. I bear the displeasure of Yahweh, for I have sinned against him, until he pleads my case, and shall execute right ruling for me, until he brings me out into the light. I look on his righteousness. Let my enemy see it. Let shame cover her who said it to me. Let shame cover her who said it to me. Let it be a shame to all these false teachers preaching all these fallacies to their people. In other words, where is Yahweh, your Elohim? Let my eyes look on her. Now she is trampled down like mud in the streets. That's the truth today. You speak the truth and you get trampled down just like the mud in the streets. The day for building your walls. Let the law go far and wide in that day. That day when they come to you from Asher and the besieged cities of Mitzrayim, and from the siege to the river, from sea to sea, mountain to mountain. But the earth shall become a waste because of those who dwell in it, and for the fruit of their deeds. Shepherd your people with your rod, the flock of your inheritance, who dwell alone in the forest in the midst of Carmel. Let them feed in Bashan and Gilead as the days of old, as in the days when you came out of the land of Mitzrayim. I shall let them see wonders. Let the nations see and be ashamed of all of their might. Let them put their hand over their mouth. Let their ears be deaf. Let them lick the dust like a serpent. Let them come trembling from their strongholds, like snakes of the earth. Let them be afraid of Yahweh, our Elohim, and fear because of you. You shine like a bright beacon of light. And one day, Lord will put underneath his foot all those who have been enemies to him, and they will see their wickedness. Verse 18, who is an El like you, taking away crookedness, and passing over the transgression of the remnant of his inheritance? He shall not retain his wrath forever, for he himself delights in loving commitment, and he shall turn back. He shall have compassion on us, and he shall trample upon our crookednesses. And you throw all our sins into the depths of the sea. You give truth to Jacob, loving commitment to Abraham, which you swore to our fathers from the days of old. A promise that Yahweh has kept a remnant throughout the ages and will always have a remnant. Pray that you be that remnant, that you not just be taken over by these false ideologies and false churches and false doctrines.
That we not be swept away by the world and what's going on and get angered with all of it.
There's just, as we see the destruction all around us, we don't know if this is the day that um, the Lord has decreed to be the great and terrible day. It certainly looks like a lot of it from what I look at. Uh, but either way, whether this be the day or not, we are to act appropriately, righteously, and come out of the world, come out of her, my people. Revelation 18:4. It's key that we do this. We're only gonna understand this righteousness by reading and understanding His Word and staying in His Word day in and day out. So let that be the word for today. Y'all be blessed, be encouraged, and always be frustrated. The soul-filled disciple. Shabbat shalom, y'all.